Hello and welcome to the If We Knew Then podcast. I'm Stephen Socks.
And I'm Lori Socks.
And today we're joined by a past guest, Vaish, and her son Sid.
We've had so many wonderful conversations with Vaish, and this is the first time that Sid has been able to join us. Sid is non-speaking and has a diagnosis of autism as well as Down syndrome. Sid is a smart, articulate poet who single-handedly debunks so many misperceptions that are put upon our community.
So welcome, Vaish and Sid Sarathy.
Hi, guys.
Good morning, friends. How are you today?
Morning. We're doing well.
All right.
So good to see you, Vaish. And Sid, very nice to meet you. I'm Stephen, and this is Lori.
You can put your legs down. Stabilize. Legs down. When you're ready. And D, or what's that? Start over. D, I, okay, not D, I, A, I am, S, so, H, A, P, P, I'm so happy, T, O, 2, B, E, keep moving, H, E, R, E. I'm so happy to be here.
We're so glad to have you.
Right away, this should be like a video podcast.
I think,
oh my gosh.
I think we should just use the video as well.
We could, yes. This is
right?
so good.
And the video, you're recording the video too, right?
We are recording the video.
We're recording the video as well. Well, would you like this? Vaish, is this your third time on our podcast?
It probably is.
I think it's your third time. Do you want to introduce yourself and say a little bit about yourself? And Sid, if you want to introduce yourself. And I think to start off, to our audio only audience, we should let you know that Sid is communicating. What do you call the board is that something you created?
A letterboard. This one's kind of a stencil kind of letterboard. So Sid is using a pencil to point to each of the letters and spell out his responses.
Now, is that something that you made, or you just kind of figured out?
It's actually it's a standard technique. It's called letterboarding communication. There are variations on it, but there's a technique called RPM, rapid prompting method. There's another one called spelling to communicate. So there are a lot of non-speaking autistic folk, students, kids, adults, students, everybody that use spelling to communicate in different forms. So they use a letterboard to spell, to communicate their ideas.
How long has Sid been using that board?
I would say we started in 2015, so it's going to be about 8 years. It's taken Sid really struggles with his motor skills, and even more than typically he would if he just had Down syndrome. He has multiple diagnoses, but so it took a long time for fluency. But he could communicate with some support for quite early. I think when he was 8 or 9. He's going to be 16 this month, so he's been on there for about 8 years.
What prompted you to use it?
Communication, right? So I'd heard about it so the technique that we trained on is called RPM. It's the same thing. So this rapid prompting method is the name of the technique that we use to train students to use a letterboard to communicate. And I'd heard about RPM from a few friends who are parents of autistic children. But it was just like, it was in my mind. And then I saw a video somewhere. I can't even recall what it was, but it was this non-speaking boy who was doing a lesson, and the teacher asked him, so what animal were we talking about? And he just spelled out bear, B-E-A-R. And even that for me was like, oh my God, he said a word, he spelled a word, because by the time Sid couldn't sign, he still doesn't speak. He doesn't have the fine motor to sign. He didn't used to make eye contact, and he, no gestures, right? So there was like, I didn't have any window into his world. And so everybody around us was talking about significant intellectual delay, because there was nothing, nothing obvious that, okay, he gets it or anything like that. It was very, it's to anybody who saw Sid, it's like seeing a person that didn't understand you at all. And then I saw a video of a child that presented like Sid, and then he's spelling this word. So we went to meet Soma, the founder of RPM in Austin. And by the end of the workshop, he was spelling out simple things like he just made up a story about a dog in a farm. But these were the very first words that we'd ever heard from him. Like, so ever. Like the first thing I was like, I remember he said dog and farm, and I was like in tears, and I was like bawling my heart out because I didn't know that was possible. And I think that was it. So that you'll hear similar stories from other people who've done spelling methods using letterboards, because usually people end up trying them because all other methods have not worked. And this includes iPad apps, and we Prolog Code to Go. We tried AAC of all sorts. And it turns out that high-tech AAC doesn't work for a lot of people. You need to go really low tech. And yeah, that's the beginning of our story.
Is that because high tech can be so overwhelming with all of the other things going on?
You want to answer? You want me to answer? You can say Sid or Mom. Lift your hands. I-W-I-L-L. Okay, go ahead. So why does high-tech AAC not work for you? A-M-O-V. Keep moving. E. What's that? O-V-E-N? Is that an S? Okay, R. O-V-E-R. S. S-T-I-M-U-L-A-T and E and I'm overstimulated. Okay. Yeah, so I think that's it. So it creates recurring patterns. So Sid had figured out how to say a sentence, and it's just like all of these shiny buttons, and he would say the same thing, I want to eat cookie, over and over again. And what we noticed was, and I've noticed this with a lot of other people, other kids too, is that it was good for asking for what you want. So I want cookie, I want music. But that's where the communication stopped. And a lot of people will argue that that's communication, and it's one step. But that's communication is also this, like share, it's actually this, like it's not just saying what you want, it's sharing that it's a great day outside, or I'm overstimulated, or or writing a piece of poetry or something like that. And I have never, for an autistic child, okay, I have to make this, if you have a stroke or something, that's different. But for an autistic child, I've very rarely seen iPad-based AACs to go beyond the I want. So I think because I'm not actually sure, I'm not an expert in this, I have not seen it, but I have seen it work well for kids with cerebral palsy, for people that have had a stroke, and so on. I've just not seen it personally work very well for autistic kids. And I'm happy to be proven wrong, but yeah.
What's a RPM?
Our rapid prompting method. So it's a way of it's a method of teaching academics. Some parts of it are the letterboard, and some parts of it go beyond. So it was the first method that taught kids to start using the letterboard for academics and communication.
How long ago was that created?
I actually don't know. I'll reference the website. It's halo-soma.org, and I can also email that to you. But I actually don't. I know it was more than 20 years ago, because I know that Soma's been working with her son for a very long time. So it's been around for a long time. It's just been recently that there's been a lot of activity and awareness around it. And I think a lot of it is like, over the past year, there's been a movie called Spellers. It's a documentary, and I think that's created a lot of momentum as well. But yeah, it's been around for a very long time.
And you went to Austin.
We went to Austin. Now there are RPM practitioners everywhere. I think even at the time they may have been, but the founder lives in Austin, and that's where we went to see her.
How did you find out about it?
I know that a friend told us. I've thought about this many times, and I don't remember who told me. It was somebody that said, you should try RPM with Sid. And it was in the back of my mind. And then I saw this video somewhere. I wish I could remember who, so I could thank them. And it is like the single most transformative experience of our lives. So,
Sid, how did that feel to be able to communicate?
do you want your elbows to be supported? Okay, so let's scoot back up. Okay. Give us a second while we just organize. So,
Sure.
and then we'll move it so we're still on video. Okay.
Listeners, Vaish is supporting Sid's elbows.
Can you repeat the question, Lori?
Yes, I wanted to hear from Sid how that felt to finally be able to communicate.
Yeah, keep going. I F E L T. I felt. T E R. I think R. Yeah. I. G doesn't make sense. T E R R I. Keep going. F I E. I felt terrified. T T H A T. I felt terrified that. Okay, keep on. M my V O I C. My voice. W A. My voice was F I N A L L. Finally, F R E E. I felt terrified that my voice was finally free. Do you want to expand on that? Keep moving. T H A T. What's that? I. That is A L. L what? O. That is a lot. O. Of. R. R I. Okay. R E. S. P. Keep moving. O. N. S. I. B. I. L. I. T. Y. That is a lot of responsibility. Anything else? No. Okay.
I wish everybody, including myself, always understood the responsibility of our voice. So you were 8, Sid, when you could finally begin to communicate?
What's that? Y E S. Yes.
And up until that point, Vaish and Sid, you were educating at home, correct?
Yeah. And for a year before that, we'd started making some choices. Like I would take a sheet of paper like this and I would just write, do you want me to read a book or do you want me to, I don't know, let's go out for a playground? And he would just point to one of them. But even that was from 7 to 8. Before that, I had no idea what to do. So for the first 7 years of his life, we definitely, all of us at home thought that Sid was a black box that we could never reach.
Mm-hmm.
But in order to use this, Sid, you have to know how to spell and your alphabet and all of these fundamentals that are taught in school, in kindergarten and going up. How did you learn those?
MOST. Most. K I, D, S. Most kids, A, R, R, S, P, O, N, G, S, P, O, N, G, I, G, E, S. Most kids are sponges. Anything else? Yeah.
So
And
without, sorry, go ahead, Vaish. Go
I
ahead.
would just want to add to that is that I agree is that a lot of kids have exposure to a lot of the input that we may not even be giving them. We may be talking about the news, and we may be, we have things going on in our lives. We're interacting with each other as adults. We're interacting with other kids. And I agree that most kids are sponges, especially kids who are not actively getting input because they have to be sponges because they're sitting in a corner and observing. And I've seen this to be true mostly is that I did honestly, I did put a few reading programs for Sid on TV. So we used to watch a couple of, I think it was called Love and Learning. It was made by the parents of a girl with Down syndrome. And it was just spelling and understanding a few words. So he did see those videos, and I remember my daughter was seeing those videos with him, and she was 1 at the time. And I think Sid was 4 when I put on those videos. And they were so effective because she would insist on sitting wherever he was. My daughter's neurotypical. And it's interesting because by the age, she had started at 6 months actually, when he was 4. And by the age of 1.5, my daughter could read newspaper headlines. And I never taught her to read. She was just watching the same programs as Sid, but she would just sit and watch them. And I think that if she could read, having watched the same programs, then any kid with a disability would learn that too. But oftentimes we're not sure that they will. So yeah, I agree that kids are sponges.
I'd like to go back to something you said, Vaish, earlier, how people saw Sid as a black box, empty. Maybe here's the iPad and just tell me what you want. Nothing deep, nothing really expressive. Not only am I totally impressed by you and presenting this way of communication to Sid, and of course, totally impressed by Sid and his intelligence. I'm so saddened by so many countless other people that have just been called a black box. And
They said that they felt like that was their experience as a family. That was their fear.
yeah. Yes. And I just, is that wrong to talk
No,
about?
no, I just wanted you to, because you said other people.
Oh, yeah.
Other people too, and us too. I think both ways. So I hear you. And oftentimes, if it's not the family, then it is everybody else seeing the child as basically nobody knows what to do.
Yeah. No, nobody knows. And then even the thought process of an iPad being made to maybe have a child express more is just like, oh, well, what, like, kind of, why? Let's just do I once.
Yeah, and technically the iPad is like the apps are designed so that, I mean, the developers will tell you that you can say whatever you want, and this is true. If you can navigate it, but it's a lot of motor planning, and it's a lot of figuring out how to order it. And honestly, in our experience, just having an A through Z letterboard was like way easier, and it takes away from a lot of the planning, and it takes away from a lot of the sensory overwhelm. And I'm not coming out against iPad apps at all, but I just want to acknowledge that because today there seems to be a thought that if you can't speak, then an app will work for you, but that is often not the case. And if anybody listening finds themselves in a box where this is all their child is stopping communication at the I want stage and not moving forward, that is when I would say look for low tech AAC, look for letterboarding methods of communication.
Yeah, because when you go into the school system and they're discussing your child's expressive language is so important in the way that they are viewed and the assumptions that are made as more societal, but also when we're trying to secure our child's right to an education. And I think having this would be a great technique to bring in to if to your IEP, because I mean, part of what our experience with Liam was that we would hear all of these opinions about his ability and who he was, and we really just had to show a few examples of that's not the truth. Our child does communicate. Our child is able to do these things. The fact that he does this and this, will open the door. I'm so curious, Sid, if you can think of was there a time along the way before you found this freedom of communication, that there was something that you wanted to say? Is there something that you can recall of something that you wanted to say but were unable?
A R T I C U L A. What's that? T.
Articulate.
Please look and I. Bring your eyes to the board. O. Articulation. I is H E A V I L. Keep moving. Articulation is heavily E or D E, sorry, D E. What's that? D E P E N D E. What's that?
Dependent.
You're slipping. You have to watch. D E. Bring your eyes, sit. If you look at the screen, you're not going to be able to spell. N T. Articulation is heavily dependent. O on M O T O motor S. Hold the board. Let's keep going. S K I L L. Motor skills A N A and D and R E R E H R E G. Okay, keep your mind steady. You're slipping. Okay, R E G. Keep going. U L A T I O N. Articulation is heavily dependent on motor skills and regulation. I don't know that was a straight answer to the question, but keep going if you have more to say. S C H O O L. Schools. S T R. RV doesn't make sense. R U G G L. Schools struggle. WITH with P R O V I D I N. With providing. Can you bring your vision here? Schools struggle with providing. E I T H E R. Okay, anything else? So he said articulation is heavily dependent on motor skills and regulation, and schools struggle with providing either. Are you making a point about why it's hard to integrate these communication techniques in school? Is that what you were trying to comment on? Yes. Okay. So to expand on what he's saying communication is a motor skill process, so the ability to move your hand. But it's also nowadays communication partners, which is what I am doing as I'm standing next to Sid and I'm being a communication partner. You've noticed me prompting him. You're saying, Sid, bring your eyes. Sid, stabilize your body. Sid, turn yourself towards the board. So I'm prompting him to make sure his body is stable. And my presence also, we now call communication partners communication regulation partners. We provide whoever it was in my place, any communication partner would also be a place of safety and trust. And we don't talk about this piece a lot. We don't talk about regulation a lot. And in any kid with a disability, this is one of the biggest aspects that impacts communication, is how regulated and safe they feel in that environment. So this isn't, unfortunately, this isn't a situation where if I were taken away and somebody else were brought and they kept the letterboard, Sid spelling would be greatly impacted because the regulation piece would change. So they would have to train with Sid for a while to build that trust and to understand his body, maybe a month or so, and then they would be able to work with Sid. So it isn't something that it's not something like an iPad where it doesn't depend on the person. Actually, everything depends on the person, every skill that a child has, especially when they're struggling with dysregulation of their body, when they don't know where their body is in space. It's very impacted by how much safety and trust and regulation their communication partners or any learning partners bring to the environment. So on a scale of 0 to 9, have I said what you wanted to say? So do you agree? Okay, 9.
That's something I was going to, I'm sorry.
No, I just wanted to know, Sid, if there's anything that you would want to say to any parents or caregivers over that are listening of and their child is what would you call, what would you say, Vaish? Is it called, what would nonverbal or
you say non-speaking these days?
Non-speaking.
Yeah. Non-verbal implies there's no language, but there is language. They're just
not speaking.
Yeah. So advice to parents that have kids that are non-speaking.
This is amazing.
WASTE, waste. NOT, waste not. YO, keep moving. Your, okay. EIM, waste not your time. Okay. And then STAR, start. SPE. What's that, Sid? You're not looking. It's SPEL. Okay, bring your attention back. SPELL. Start spelling. TODAY. Waste not your time, start spelling today. And do you mean teaching to spell or spelling to as a form of communication? CO. So he's spelling. Yeah, you can finish it up. Communi. C and A N. T and I N. O N M. So waste not your time, start spelling today. And by that, we mean spelling as a means of communication.
So spelling to their student.
Spelling with their student.
Their student.
Yeah.
Well, I when you talked about having someone there with Sid when he's spelling, I am witnessing right now, Sid is picking out every letter and spelling. You are holding the board.
I am.
And I feel like I know why but maybe you could get in some details of why you're there holding the board instead of the board being maybe propped up next to Sid.
The technique starts off starts off like that, having the board being supported independently where Sid can spell is a more advanced step of the technique. And there are a lot of kids that have gone there, and there are a lot of kids. So ultimately, the goal of whether it's RPM or S2C or any of these methods is for the child to be able to type independently. So when you have a child that's gone through the whole process, you'll see a lot of kids and adults. They'll just have like a propped keyboard and they're now typing independently. So that is the goal. This is like maybe it depends on, this is maybe like the third or fourth step toward that goal. So it's I heard somebody use the analogy, or if as for someone that were that had maybe lost use of their legs and they're now trying to learn to walk, you can think about it as going from one level of walking support, like being in a wheelchair, to maybe using crutches like that. So this is a more supported form of communication because I am here. And if Sid keeps moving, so I try to keep the board centered for Sid. Nowadays, he doesn't move that much, so I don't need to keep it. So eventually our goal will be to keep the board steady. I don't know why it makes it more difficult, but that's a more advanced level of communication. So that would be the goal. We're just not there yet. So I'm holding the board here. Yeah.
I would imagine just the amount of regulation it takes for your body to get it still, and then to go to a board that's still would be a lot more. Did you want to say something, Sid?
Whenever you're ready. Why? Keep moving. Yes. Y, O, U, N, and B doesn't make sense. N, A, I, L, N, A, I, L, E, D. You nailed it. So what you said, Lori, so it takes more, you have more to say? No. So what you said is that when something is very steady, you kind of have to still your body to be able to go in and point. But when he can move, and then I can regulate him here. So I can say like, be accurate, be precise. I'm just constantly prompting and stuff. So there's this external regulation piece that's helping.
And this comes from you. This isn't possible. None of it's possible without what we spoke about in a different episode, which is assuming ability,
assuming competence, intelligence, all of that. Yes. He's just stretching, I think.
Okay, I wasn't sure. I wasn't sure. Which is, do you want to talk a little? Let's revisit that because
well, it can never be said too often. You know,
we bring it into we talk about it. I mean, now Liam's in a different school that does assume that he's able, but I think it's a really great point to revisit.
Well, we've brought it into school, but we've brought it into our home.
In our home, in our life. And it really is for every relationship and every interaction you have in your life.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's, and you want to go first or me? You. Okay. I'll go. Assuming intelligence, especially when you have a child that's not speaking, or when you have a child that's using a different means of communication, is really important because you can get very trapped in, because I've seen people that start learning RPM or S2C and they get trapped in just teaching the child to spell. And even if a child doesn't know how to spell, usually when you start using this, they'll figure it out because you're it's like it's organic through the process. Like there's no other way. You can't go anywhere. You have to learn to spell if you're using this technique, right? So it's important that to be able to move on to complex forms of speech, that you allow the child to have complex thoughts. And even though we're nobody to allow them to have those thoughts or not, we can create an environment that doesn't allow for them. So if I'm constantly having baby talk with Sid, and with just Sid's behavior and, like his body language, it's so easy because there's so much, it's so easy to go all, you're so cute, you're like a baby. And like my husband will do that a lot. And we often get into arguments. I'm like, treat him like a 16-year-old. But he'll say, but he's so cute, I want to just pinch his cheeks and stuff. And I mean, I still pinch his cheeks and everything, but when it's very easy to start this kind of a discussion where we're doing baby talk, and then there's no, how can what is there for a child to say when you suppose you ask him, do you see the color of those leaves outside? And then do you know what color? And if we're just talking about color and the alphabet all the time, there is no room for the mind to expand. You have to create this space where the mind can expand and fill it with thought. And that is what assuming intelligence is about. And that's why I say that assuming intelligence reveals intelligence. That I always feel like the mind is like a gas where it can expand to fill the space that it's provided, but you have to provide it with the appropriate container that it can fill.
What are some ways that you provided space for intelligent thought? I'm sorry, more complex thought.
Yeah, and both ways. I didn't do anything consciously, but I just made sure that the discussions and like our daily conversations were age appropriate. And by that, I mean how I would talk to a neurotypical, when Sid was 8, a neurotypical 8-year-old or a neurotypical 10-year-old, right now 16-year-old. So I'm not babying down the conversations at all. So the discussions we have or whatever I hold him accountable to are the same things that I would hold a neurotypical person accountable to. The exposure to media he has, and I don't mean social media, of course, but I mean like if you're seeing a video of any sort, it would be the kind of video that I would show another child of the same age. The discussion that we would have on whether that's romance or even even sex education or anything like that, that would be something that I would have with a person of that age. In fact, the young adult, one of the discussions in our homes is whether the books that he's listening to on audio are appropriate for him. And they are, because they're young adult novels that have been, rated for kids that are in 10th grade like he is. But I mean, we have this tendency to protect our children with disabilities, and we kind of get very prickly about, is it okay to expose them to this much? But I mean, all within balance, of course. But I found that it is exposure, a little bit more exposure is always better to help the mind expand.
Sid, your experience with assuming competence and ability, I'm sure you've experienced the non-expectation. Do you want to talk on that?
Okay. Why don't you put your legs down, stabilize? Okay, go on. G E N E R R what? R A L L. Generally, P E O P L. Generally, people. T R E A. Treat me. L I K. Like a BABN. Like a baby. Okay. I am O L. I am O K. With it. S O. Keep your eyes on the board if you can. Some. T I M. I'm okay with it sometimes. B U. But I T C A. But it, CA, finish up. It can get a, it can get what? G, A, I think it's A-N, N, O. Okay, reduce your movement, stabilize. A-N-O-Y, I-N-G. It can get annoying. So generally people treat me like a baby. I'm okay with it sometimes, but it can get annoying.
I bet.
Yeah.
Is there anything you want to say about it? Like how you feel when they're treating you like a baby? When is it okay? But when is it
Yeah,
okay?
I don't know.
Like if someone's treating you like a baby, what makes it okay? Just like who that person is, or
S-O-M-E. Sometimes I-L-I-K. I like T-O. Is that H or C? U D C-U-D D L-N. Sometimes I like to cuddle. So it's okay when he wants to cuddle. I think it's okay when my husband does it. Is that what you mean? When Baba does it, it's okay. Yeah. So when family does it and he wants to cuddle.
I think we all enjoy a cuddle.
Yeah.
More often probably than we admit.
Yeah.
And then when so when people don't limit you, don't see you as whole, is there anything here that you want to say about that?
I want to preface that by saying that a lot of autistic non-speakers have expressed a lot of dismay and anguish about that. But Sid also has the personality of a Zen monk, so you're probably not getting the full story. So he's very much, he's like in his internal meditative state a lot of times. So it probably annoys me more than him. But so you're getting like a partial picture of because that is his inner personality.
No, I love that, and I think that's ultimately our goal. And I feel like Vaish, one thing we were having an interview earlier this year, and one thing I realized was it was with a group of researchers, some of which had Down syndrome, and what I realized in my conversation, and this is probably going to be proven again by Sid, is that as parents, I feel like it affects us maybe more because we're on the outside seeing it. And I think that, like, I know for me, I think I'm getting better at it, but I feel always that need to either validate or prove or, one of those things, because we are, as the parent, fighting for our child to be seen and included and, all of those things.
Yeah, because you asked the researchers, how they felt about when people have low expectations of them or assume certain things about them. And for the most part,
it was more
the
like
ones
that's
that were
their
asked
problem.
were like, I don't know, I'm good.
That's not me. That's them. And that's, that's someplace that I've been,
Working
to come from. What would you like to say, Sid? Sid, you have the best smile. I got to tell you.
M-O-T-H-E. Mothers. Mothers are P-O. Okay, I don't, let me verify. Mothers are again. Okay, let's try the smaller board. J through R. Did you mean P? Okay, P. R. Oh, I see. Okay, P-R-O-D. U. C. I N. Mothers are producing A W H O L, a whole, maybe L. Okay, so it's L, stabilize. LN doesn't make sense. LO, whole lot, O, of, G, R, I, E, grief, A, N, A, N, D, and L, O, V, E. Mothers are producing a whole lot of grief and love. S, U, okay, not S, U, start over then. T, O, U, G, tough, L, I, F, tough life. For moms? Yes. Okay. Mothers are producing a whole lot of grief and love, tough life.
So that reminds me, I wanted to talk about Sid's poetry book because that's very spot on. That's very spot on.
Mm-hmm.
And Sid, how you wrote a book of poems?
Right now, it's two books.
2 books. I think I don't know. Maybe we only have the first book.
Yeah, I'll send you the link to the second book. It's called Proceedings of the Full Moon Rotary Club, and that's because we have a club of non-speaking poets that meets every full moon, and that's called the Full Moon Rotary Club. So the name of his book is Proceedings of the Full Moon Rotary Club. It's a collection of 6 poems. It's here somewhere, but yeah.
Do you meet via Zoom or in person?
Yeah, via Zoom. Yeah.
And is it open to new members if someone was interested?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. And is it open for members who are not yet speaking and communicating that are still, is that something that sounds fair?
Anybody who's having, I think it started off as non-speaking autistics who were spelling to communicate, but it can be anybody in any what should I say, any part of the journey.
How old were you, Sid, when you wrote your first book of poems?
You want to go to the number board, go here. N-O-T-S-U-R. Not sure. It would be about 2 years ago that his first book was published. So I would say maybe close to 14.
And then this new book of poems?
It came recently. So, and we're right here. Yeah, I've still not unwrapped a lot of these. So yeah, maybe a few last month or so. It's a small book. They call it a chapbook. So it's got about maybe 20 poems or so.
Who does the artwork?
The publishing company had, I do want to make sure I credit the person correctly. This particular painter, his name is Brian Lucas. And this is from, I'm guessing he works with the publishing company, which is State Champs San Francisco.
And how were you introduced to poetry, Sid? Or Vaish, whoever wants to answer that. And then maybe you can also tell us what it is you like about poetry.
We had, so my story is that he had written a few poems just like that. And while I didn't know if they were good or bad, but I had a feeling that they were very heartfelt. So I reached out to a few people who referred us to Chris Martin, who is a poet and who teaches a lot of non-speaking poets. So Sid's been working with Chris Martin for the last 3 years. And yeah, we started just when the start of the pandemic in May 2020. So Sid and Chris meet on Zoom every week, and that's how we got started. You? U, E, E, queer, MIND, queer minds, CONNE, E what? Look and go, please. Okay, C. Queer minds connect. Finish up. T and H and R and O and U and queer minds connect through POETY. RY. Queer minds connect through poetry. Sid does a lot of writing about neurodiversity and queerness.
Is that in this new poetry book?
Define what you mean by queer.
You want me to repeat the definition you gave to, he spoke to a group of college students a couple of weeks ago. Repeat, or you want to, so you can say R for repeat or N for new. So you can say it again. Which one you want? So somebody asked him this very question because he was talking about queerness. And he was talking to a group of college students that were reading his book as part of, I think perhaps as part of their curriculum. And he said, it means to be so free that you scare yourself.
Wow.
Do I have anything else to say about being queer? Q, U, E, E, R, N, E, S. Queerness is a STRENG. Queerness is a strength. Okay. T, the, P, PQ, the, start over, P, R, I, D, E, of, B, E, I, N. Okay. The pride of being, let me stabilize a little bit, just push down on your hands. You feel your hands. The pride of being, Q, U, E, E, R, queer, S, H, O, U, L. I'll take that as should. R, E, V, E, R, H. Okay, B, reverb, B, R, A, T, reverberate, PH, keep moving, R, O, move it, U, reverberate through, S, O, C, I, E, T, Y. The pride of, I think he said, being queer should reverberate through society. I, A, M, Q, U, E, E, R, A, okay, as, F, U, okay, you might want to censor that part, CK. Okay.
I'm watching you.
Censor.
Yeah, we don't have to censor that. I am watching you. You don't know what Sid is gonna say.
Yeah.
No.
And I'm watching.
That's the beauty of it.
It's I'm watching you there.
You're watching me cringe as it spells
You're
out.
like, what's gonna?
When he said queer ass, I knew what the next word was, and I was like, maybe he'll say something else. But he's been on a mission to say as many F words as he can in public. So it's so
Done.
Nailed it.
Check mark.
Check mark. Do you want to talk more about that, Sid?
I-A-M-A-S-E. What's that? X-U-A. I'm asexual. G or B. But I, E, okay, I, E or D? D, O, N, T. I don't. L, I, L or K. I don't like. T, H. So when I take my board back, it's kind of like a reset for him. It's a visual reset. Okay. I don't like that. It is C O N S I D E S. Doesn't make sense. Look and go R. I don't like that it's considered A D E F A U L. Keep moving. A default O F I or D S. I don't like that I'm asexual, but I don't like that it is considered a default of DS being Down syndrome.
What would you rather it be considered? I don't think it's a default. I don't think it's a default. And I think this is a great conversation, Sid, to be having because this is Pride Month. So
Huh? He says my queerness. So he'd rather it be considered his queerness. Or perhaps, so would you say be considered like your individuality as opposed to just being like part of a group that is stereotyped? Yeah.
well, I think there's a lot of things that people will put under a stereotype of, and that's really one of the reasons that we created the podcast is to address the misinformation and misperceptions that people, and we've discussed that. What did you call it? The umbrella? The umbrella that people will, the umbrella diagnosis. Is that what we discussed before?
Yeah, I think the word was that I got from Dr. Erica Pearson was diagnostic overshadowing. Yeah.
Overshadowing.
That's
right.
it. That's what it was.
That was medical, but yeah, and totally the same for social uh, thoughts as well, right?
Yeah, it does kind of blend into that, right?
I think it's a really important conversation because I'm sure that you said that you watched the news together and discussed different stories. So this is a lot that's been in the news lately, and this is an example of what you mean by opening and allowing room for the intellectual thought.
Mm-hmm.
Did you want to say something, Sid? Did you want to add to that?
X E R M L. Extremely. Move your body. Okay. I N I M P P O. So I'm going to assume that was important too. N or G E A R. Gear. I wonder what you mean by gear. Okay. Q U. Keep moving. E E R N E, extremely important to gear queerness in D, S. So that's Down syndrome. Anything else? I don't know what geared queerness is. Do you mean allow for? Would that be? You can give me a number rating, 0 to 9. Would that allow for? Okay, let's put that away. It's distracting. Okay, he gave a 5, so not allow for. E, N, C, O, U, encourage. D, I, S, C, U, S, S. Hold it closely. You're slipping. I, encourage discussion of. Okay, so by here he means encourage discussion of queerness in Down syndrome.
So you're saying the what did we just say? I'm so bad. The umbrella, the diagnostic overshadowing doesn't allow to have the conversation about queerness and Down syndrome.
Would that be correct?
Is that what you're saying, Sid?
Yeah, 9. Yes. So maybe allow room for a discussion of that. Would that be better? Yeah.
It seems like that's a secondary way that your voice is being silenced. Like, one is to not assume the ability or that there's a communication there, and then 2, to limit the kinds of conversations that we're allowing.
Yeah, I mean, I would assume there's a lot of people with Down syndrome that are not asked the questions.
Yeah. Or had those discussions, I didn't actually ask Sid the question, so it's not like I encouraged it or anything like that. Like I don't know that I created the space myself, but it so happened that a family friend came out as asexual and came and shared it with us. And I think that was the first time Sid had even heard of that or known that that was a possibility. And I remember that day because it was like 100 bulbs went out in his mind, and it just felt he said immediately that so am I, and he'd been trying to talk about it, and he didn't know that that was a thing. I think so. He was really happy to hear that about that.
What are your pronouns, Sid?
HE, HIM, him, he, him.
Okay. I'm sorry I didn't ask you that before. I have to tell you, I love our conversation today. This is
Yeah, I mean, this is.
I just love our. I'm so happy that.
Just like when we ask you a question, Sid, and I might have an idea of what the answer is going to be, and then like anyone else, you'll surprise me with your answer because it's your answer. Well, I had an idea what this conversation was going to be.
It's not, but I would say, Vaish, we had spoke before about before we met Sid, because this is our third conversation, and I feel like in the education realm, it was, I think you were talking about geometry, or Sid had. Is that correct? Like, do you homeschool, Sid?
I do, yeah.
And was it? I have to go back and listen.
Wasn't it the periodic table, or no?
Was it the periodic table? Because he made a joke. I think he made a joke using the periodic
part where I asked him, would you like to do, was it this one where I asked him, so next year, shall we study geometry and chemistry and this and that? And then I said, spell out your answer, and he spelled FUN. Oh, I asked him, what did we miss? And then he spelled FUN.
No, I don't remember that. That's good.
Okay. That's pretty much a standard in art, because I can go on the other side where I'm too much because I'm a teacher and I'm heavily into this assuming competence. So I'll just go, let's do this and this and this. And then he's putting on the brakes and he's saying, okay, slow down. a lot of times all he wants to do is just actually write poetry. So since we're still in school, we're still doing, well, we go to an online public school. Sid goes to an online public school called Connections Academy. So he's listening to these lectures on video, and then I'm his communication partner for giving the answers. But it's, I can see that his mind isn't there. Like, and I've noticed that in a lot of neurodiverse kids that there is what I've heard, apparently the term is splinter skill. It's that like this one skill that is so strong that it supersedes everything else. And sometimes when you find that, for Sid, that's poetry and writing, that nothing else is even remotely interesting. So even language, when we're studying, like when we're studying English, 10th grade English, and he has to listen to these short stories, and then he has to answer questions that, why did A do this to B? And he's not interested in analyzing and regurgitating stuff at all. So he'll like write a poem in response or something that's completely unconnected, or make up something about A and B. And he is so strongly leaning towards that direction that I feel like we're drifting against the current a lot. And I'm every year tempted to just pull him out of regular education and just like maybe write poetry all the time. But we're already finished 10th grade, and I'm like, we're never going to get this chance again. So I'm like, let's just finish 2 more years of school, and then you can just sit and write. So he's okay with it too. But I think the correct analogy would be going against the current. We're still going. I've always been a proponent of, finding the current and floating with it, but just being in school of any sort, we're automatically slightly floating against the current, against his current. Yeah.
Against its current. I think it's amazing that you found something that you love to do so passionately as poetry. I love poetry. I was a theater lit major, and I love poetry. Perhaps I know I feel like with Sophia is in high school, and some of the books that get chosen for them to read aren't necessarily the ones that will spark inspiration, or I don't know. I love Somerset Maugham, A Moon and Sixpence, or some other Pablo Neruda. There's some really great poets and writers. Alice Walker, of course, Maya Angelou. Like maybe you'll be exposed to somebody who sparks that fire in you as far as literature and narratives. I know I always have that conversation with my daughter too. Like, why do they pick the books? Why are they picking these books? Because there's a lot of great literature out there. So I would just ask you, Sid, to just stick it out, because I think that is really overall the high school experience. And I think that I just think it's great that you're a poet. Sid, are you interested at all in writing narratives?
Writing narrative.
Like a fiction or a nonfiction story?
N-O.
No.
No.
Okay.
Well, since your poetry doesn't get written down without your mom being there to assist you in expressing your poetry, I asked the question, are you thinking of poetry all day long or during the day, or what percentage of the day do you think you are making up poems in your mind?
E or I, A, M, I, N, T, H. I'm in the M, O, M, E. What's that? N. I'm in the moment. When you're ready. P, H, E, the M, I, N. The mind. Z, W, H, E, N. The mind when in R, E S O N A N, in resonance. Y or W? Okay, start over. The mind when in resonance. O W. Okay, WIT, with the DIV, with the divine. CAN, can. CREA. Okay, little bit more present with the letter board. Also keep stand here. Can, CREAT, can create. What's that? POETR, can create poetry. The mind, when in resonance with the big mind, with the divine, sorry, can create poetry. O U, I think, out. O, out of. A, I, air. Okay. I think he said I forgot his first sentence. I'm in the moment or something like that. And the mind, when in resonance with the divine, can create poetry out of air.
Is that one of your poems?
Yeah, that's
really
a response from a poet.
That's one of your poems. I like watching. I like watching as he's spelling to you. I like watching, like the thoughts come to your mind,
Yeah.
Sid, and you express those. Is it sometimes hard when you're writing poems because they're so personal to recite them or communicate them to your mom?
Why? Yes.
Do you edit yourself or find, what is it called when you
Censor?
Yeah. Thank you.
Why? Yes.
Yeah.
How do you get a poem that is its most true essence, what you're trying to communicate?
I can't. her. ENERG. Her energy. I I don't know what that is. He said I N INC INT ERFERES. I can't. Her energy interferes.
But you have what did you say? What?
I'm sorry for these big pauses after you answer, but I'm trying to take it in.
I'm listening. And no, because I'm curious, because as a, when you're writing, there's the process in which we write and rewrite and edit. But poetry is such a pure, I mean, every word, even I'm in the moment. And was that a poem? Did you just make that up on the spot, or is that like something that you've written before?
On the spot, yes or no? Yes. You consider it a poem? No. A lot of his answers are somewhat shaped like that, which is sometimes why it's hard to get very specific responses from Sid, because it's like poetry.
Mm-hmm. No, it's beautiful. I loved that response. And I think you're absolutely right. when you're in the presence, what was it, of the,
Divine.
of the divine, when your mind is in the presence of the divine. You can create poetry out of air. And I would have to say that that would be just really the truth about life in every moment. You know, you make life poetry, Sid. This conversation has been poetry. I'm looking forward to reading your new book. Is there anything else? Because we've touched on so much. I mean, we've really talked about so many really big things that I feel like would merit individual conversations. Is there anything that you'd like to add, or?
BEYOND beyond HAPP beyond happy TOCHA beyond happy to chat TODA beyond happy to chat today. Yeah, that's it.
We loved it too.
Well, you know, you're always welcome to come back if there's something that you want to share or you want to talk about your poems or anything else. I'm honored that you shared so much and you were so open and honest with us about everything. I mean, I feel like, I don't know, maybe it is, there's something to be said that I feel like words are not wasted. I feel like your words are carefully chosen to express at the most concise point.
I think that's so well put, Lori, because that's Chris Martin, his teacher, wrote a book, and in that he wrote about he has a couple of small passages about Sid, and that's what he wrote, is that when it takes so much effort of your muscles and your vision and everything to spell out like a single word, it can take up to 5 minutes for a full sentence or more. What is the word for it? Thrift of words becomes of extreme importance. So it's really important that every word means something.
Yeah. I don't know what to say. I mean, I
respond, yep.
Yep. Like that.
It's true.
No, it's.
Well, through your poetry, you're speaking in the most efficient way to express yourself.
And it's something I can learn. And I know that when Liam was first with his expressive language, that was, I remember that being a point. There's not, and it's one of the things I loved when we would talk in sign language. I'm guilty of wasting this gift of words. But just having to choose and say and know what it is you want to communicate is, I think it builds that muscle. It builds different muscles, and it builds the exact muscles that society tries to deny exist, which is the paradox here. Because at one conversation with Sid, I think diminishes every misperception and stereotype that anyone would just decide to bring into the relationship beforehand. And that does so much, opens so many doors for everyone and people coming behind you. I think, can we put in, do you want to respond to that, Sid, before I?
Have anything to say? Lift your hands up. No response.
And I feel also you're probably pretty, I don't know, this is an assumption, but I imagine like sometimes I'll entertain conversations that don't necessarily maybe serve what I want in my life, or who I am, and relationships, I imagine that you're more selective, and that's not something that you entertain often.
Like this. I am so HAPP. I'm so happy to HEA. I think that's here. Y and O and. Find it. You said YOV, YOU, YOU. Your THOUGH. I'm so happy to hear your thoughts. Yeah. FIS or FIN. I find like this. Okay, go. YO. Keep moving. You. I find you to A or B. B. I find you to be T. Okay, what's that? You said TG. Let's start it. I find you to be A. K. Sid, you went to K and H. You'll need to look at the board. KIN. I think he's going to KIND. Okay, find it. R. Okay, got it. RE. Kindred. SO. You and soul. I'm so happy to hear your thoughts. I find you to be a kindred soul. In other words, he agrees with you. Yes.
That is like that just fills my heart, Sid, and it makes that's an honor. That I don't take lightly. I got to tell you that you're so honest and truthful. When I could see when you, I was like, whatever Sid is going to say, it's going to impact me. Like I didn't know. I find you to be annoying. I don't, because you're honest. That's like you can't. That's such a gift. And I was anxiously waiting to see what you were going to spell. And I have to tell you that those words are. Well, you just made my day, Sid. Thank you so much. I even forgot. I know I had another question after that. And I think that's.
I think it's rare that because I'm always present in Sid's conversations as onlooker plus communication partner, that usually like many conversations start out similarly where we are asking about, do you get annoyed? And, is this communication hard for you? Because those are standard places where people want to know about how it feels to be non-speaking. But then when we diverge to queerness and just the couple of observations that you guys made toward the end, I think those were pretty unique. I don't think we've actually especially what you said that about the words being you made the observation of like using minimal words efficiently, and also that he doesn't want to use his language everywhere or encourage all conversations. Those are not detours that we've taken before, so I can see why Sid feels that you're kindred souls to him. Yeah.
No, we appreciate every part of you. We love you and we see you and we appreciate you 100%. So the fact that you felt comfortable enough to talk to us about these things. I mean, I think initially when I ask about how does it feel when people treat you like a baby or to not be able to express yourself, because I think about our listeners and I think, I know early in Liam's journey, there were years when he was communicating but non-speaking until his expressive language began to emerge. And it's not until, I don't even know if I could, under my motivation was to help him to express himself, to minimize frustration, because that's actually something that with Sophia, when she was a baby, they do baby sign language, and the main goal of that is so to minimize frustration. And I think for me, it was an attempt to give a voice to other children whose caregivers may be listening, to give them some insight. And, honestly, the rest of the conversation and everything you shared is just such a gift, because I want to know you. I want to learn about you like I do, with everyone. I want your story is so important. And honestly, I love your definition of queer belongs on a button somewhere and a sticker, because it's really beautiful. And I wasn't sure if you were speaking about queer in the context of pride and LGBTQ. And so that's why I wanted to give you the opportunity to expand on that. And I'm happy always to have that conversation. Did you want to say something? See, I don't have that thrift of words that I desperately require.
YES, yes. TALK. I am talking. Okay. Or ABO. Talking about. Lift your hands and then go. Talking about. QUEER. Queer. NES. Talking about queerness. BEST. Best. EOP. Best topic. A or okay, FO for M and best topic for me.
Does that mean that you wanted the best topic that you, as like you enjoyed talking about it, you wanted to talk more, or just best part of our conversation today?
Option 1 or option 2? You said 3, which means 1 and 2. Is that what you're saying? Yeah. So we use the number board a lot to make choices, because it's less effort sometimes to just say yes or no answer. So yes, so he said yes to both. Best part of today's, and that he enjoys talking about queerness.
If you ever want to come back and talk some more about it, I feel like we've taken so much of your morning, but if you ever want to come back and speak more,
Yes. Okay. Yeah, he says he'd like to. Anything else?
Wonderful.
Well, just tell your mom she has our number. We still have to. We didn't get to the gut health. We keep pushing that, and that's something that I still want to talk to you about. And also, this conversation opened up because we wanted to talk about comprehension, because you had made a post about comprehension, and I think it's undeniable. I mean, we can discuss more about comprehension in general, but I think that
maybe the one thing I would add to this conversation is like, and maybe, I don't know if this could be clipped and added to the beginning, where you talked about how you make that space. The biggest tools or enablers in our journey were audiobooks, because you've seen how Sid keeps moving his body back and forth, because he's constantly adjusting for his vision, and he sees double. And even with glasses, it's hard for him to track. So you can see how he spells, but he cannot read, not because he cannot read, but because his eyes cannot, like, it's very hard for him to like go like this and read. It's just not possible. And you can see how his head is constantly moving to adjust for his vision. So it's really hard for him. So without audiobooks, we would have been nowhere. So that's where I make a point about reading comprehension. I will not go into that segue now. I know that's a different discussion. But just to make the point that that's where you can introduce complexities. Like, you don't have to wait for some magical reading ability to blossom. So we would not have been here without audiobooks. Like, I would say everything is due to audiobooks.
Okay, so that's another tool, audiobooks, and we can put in the show notes. Can we put Chris Martin?
Yeah, Chris Martin. His website is unrestrictedinterest.com.
And then we have Sid's second book. We'll put a link to that as well.
Yeah.
Is there anything else?
And a link to the technique that you're using.
And a link to the technique.
And I'll also link Sid's Instagram page, where he's not very active these days, but his goal was to put in some poetry every day. So
please do.
Yeah.
Please do.
Vaish, Sid, it was just a fantastic conversation with you today, and we really appreciate you.
Thank you.
I always learn so much from our conversations, Vaish. And
what's that? AMAZIN. Amazing. Oh, no. I thought we were going to say discussion. So I kind of, in my mind, I was going there, but yeah, you are going. Okay. DISCUSSI. Amazing discussion. THANL doesn't make sense. NK. Thanks.
Thank you, Sid.
We'll talk soon.
Well, yeah, thanks. It was an amazing discussion.
Please follow us on Twitter at If We Knew Then Pod, and you can drop us a line on our Facebook page at If We Knew Then Pod, or visit our website, ifweknewthen.com, to send us an email with questions and comments. And you can join our mailing list there and get alerts of future podcast episodes. All these links will be added to this episode's show notes. Thank you again, and we look forward to you joining us on the next episode of If We Knew Then.